Hi, and welcome to the screencast, which is going to describe a workflow of how I use EndNote to screen my papers for relevance or irrelevance. And it's going to hinge on using again, adding a tag to the research notes field and using smart groups. So let's get started, and I'm going to, any of these references you can click on and you can say, click on this and it says, what is the efficiency of supplements against arthroses and arthritis in animal feed? Unfortunately no abstract has come down, but I suspect it is likely to be irrelevant because it is going to be animal feeds as opposed to dogs, which we're focused on. And let's assume that I had evidence for that. And so what I would do is write irrelevant in the notes. You can fill that one. Okay. And it's going to ask me, do I want to save them? And I say yes. So now if I was to go down to say this one here, and it's the ovopet in the treatment, and I say, well, that's dogs, and ovopet, it looks like it's a supplement of some kind. So I do want to add, and I'm going to say relevant. Okay, now this is where I use smart groups. Okay, so we're coming back to the my groups, and I'm going to say create a smart group, and in the first one I'm going to want relevant papers. So I'm looking for the research notes, and I want it to contain the word relevant, and I'm going to run that. And you can see it's found 2 papers, and that looks a little bit strange because you think, well, I chose efficacy of supplements and mark that it's irrelevant. Well, the reason that has happened is that irrelevant, the word relevant appears. Okay, so actually what we need in this case is to make sure the words are quite separate, because we do need to use the contains rather than exact, because remember that the research notes will already have other notes that you don't want to delete. So the solution to that is I'm going to go in here, and instead of using the word relevant, I'm going to use the word useful. Okay, now the other thing that is actually quite useful is I like to use single words as opposed to sentences, and I find it really useful when I'm doing these things is that I have another document in which I write what my keyword was, and then I write a description of what that keyword or tag denotes, which means I can do these searches quicker later. So now I'm going to call it useful, close the change, and it's gone. So I do need to make a change, so I'm going to say edit that group, and what I'm going to do is replace relevant with useful and save, and now I get the one I marked that way. I can also create a smart group for irrelevant papers. Okay, so I can also create a smart group for my irrelevant papers, and I would do that by writing, give it a name, irrelevant. I would select again that research notes field and type irrelevant. And you can see we have that other paper. So as you go through screening, the great thing about these groups is that they automatically update. So to give you an example, I didn't do that one, and let's say I decided it was relevant. I can go in there, sorry, not relevant, remember I need to write useful, close it, and now it appears there for relevant papers. And so that's the really good thing about a smart group, is that it automatically Okay, now sometimes you cannot do all the scanning in a single day. With 88 you probably could, but you know, we often get more than that. And so what I want to do though is be able to come back and know exactly which ones I'd already processed without having to keep meticulous records. So I'm going to use smart groups again. So again, we're creating this smart group, and I'm going to call this unprocessed papers. And again, we're making use of the research notes tag. And again, I'm going to use that contains, and I'm going to say web. So in other words, it contains the word Web of Science. We don't have to have the full word. Or, and again, research notes here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Scopus. So I'm saying it contains one of the database words that we used, or it contains that. And here's the trick, but it cannot contain the word useful, because that means we've already assigned it a category, nor can it include the word irrelevant. Create. And you'll see here that because I have processed 85 papers, sorry, 3 papers, we now have 85 left, 85 total. Just a reminder again of the power of these. Let's imagine we go to this report up here and I decide that that is irrelevant. I say as much. This time I've saved it before I've shut it, so I won't get that prompt. Again, my unprocessed papers has gone to 84 and those have been marked as shows. So that's an incredibly powerful way to use smart groups to actually get them to do the sorting and manage your process. And at the end, once you've done all of them, there will be of course none in the unprocessed, and they will all be assigned to either relevant or irrelevant, and it's only the relevant ones that you will have to scan further. And so that ends the workflow for completing a scan of relevance and irrelevance in EndNote. I hope you found that useful. Any questions, please don't hesitate to ask.